Absalom, the incredible betrayal of a son. Discover God's shocking plan for redemption and faith. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, King David ruled over Israel, a nation marked by divine favor, yet fraught with familial discord and political upheaval. It was a time when shadows fell over Jerusalem, draping the city in whispers of rebellion and betrayal. Among the king's sons stood Absalom, a figure blessed with both beauty and ambition, who had captured the hearts of the people with his charisma and charm. Lucrative ideas hidden behind soft words began to sway the folks away from their beloved king, as a treacherous plot twisted like ivy around the pillars of truth. As dawn broke over the rolling hills of the Judean wilderness, a storm brewed in David's heart. News of Absalom's revolt pierced his soul, a blade of betrayal sharper than any sword. How could my son turn against me? David pondered, each reason harder than the last. He had loved him, nurtured him, yet Absalom sought not the crown to serve, but to seize it for his own. Fleeing the comforts of the palace, David gathered his most loyal followers. His feet led him through the streets of Jerusalem, a heart heavy with sorrow and disbelief. As he ascended the Mount of Olives, tears streamed down his weathered face, and he pleaded with the Lord. "O Yahweh, guide me in this tumultuous time. Is there hope for my son?" His voice echoed against the hills, a poignant prayer mingling with the crisp morning air. David's faith hung by a thread as he wandered through the vast wilderness, a reflection of his fractured heart. Each step a lament for both kingdom and kin. Meanwhile, back in the city, Absalom reveled among the crowds, his ambitions feeding his pride. "Behold your new king," he declaimed, basking in the praises of misguided followers. Yet, in the depths of his heart, an unsettling storm churned, a harbinger of the seeds of conflict he had sown. The rapture of power was laced with darkness, each cheer echoing the ominous foreboding of downfall. As David's loyal warriors prepared to defend their king, a confrontation loomed ominously on the horizon. The fate of father and son sharpened into focus, their paths intertwined not just by blood, but by the heavy cords of ambition and betrayal. Would the battle reveal a fracture too deep to mend? In the shadows of war, David's heart battled between loyalty to his people and unfathomable love for Absalom, the son of his grief. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. Set for battle, the armies prepared to clash as the hearts of Israel trembled in silence. David, the father, cried out in anguish for his son whose heart had turned against him. He longed for reconciliation amidst the chaos, praying not for Absalom's downfall, but for his redemption. As arrows would soon fly, their fates intertwined within the unfolding drama, the glimmer of God's redemptive plan began to shine against the shadows of despair. As the dust settled and the clash of swords resonated, an ultimate question remained. Would Absalom's pride lead to his undoing, or could the mercy of God weave a path for restoration through the wreckage of betrayal? The wilderness whispered secrets of hope where despair sought to prevail, heralding a future brimming with the promise of divine reconciliation. What would befall Absalom, embittered by ambition, and could redemption still rise from such depths of darkness? As the sun cast its golden hue across the battlefield, the armies of David and Absalom stood poised, a storm brewing in their hearts. The air was thick with tension, and the cries of warriors echoed like an ominous symphony in the valley of Ephraim. Soon, the clashing of swords would reverberate through the heart of the nation, shattering the fragile peace that had long been a whispered hope. David's heart stirred as he surveyed the advancing chaos, an ache that transcended loyalty and transformed into a desperate prayer. "O Lord, hear my plea. Beneath the weight of this feud, I seek mercy for my son." He recalled the promise spoken over him by Nathan the prophet, of a lineage that would endure, and he yearned for the fulfillment of God's covenant amid tragedy. Yet the rebellion of Absalom clawed at his spirit, tears threatening to spill as he thought of the son who had turned into adversary. Meanwhile, Absalom, riding at the forefront of his chariots, felt the swell of power coursing through him as the people rallied. "To the gates, glory to the one who has come to liberate you," he called, but those cheers felt hollow against the heartbeat of his own doubts. Within the depths of his soul, whispers of discontent tore at the fabric of his ambition. Was he truly the champion or a usurper condemned by his own pride? As the battle lines were drawn, the trumpets blared forth and conflict erupted with the fury of a tempest. It was a clash not only of steel but of hearts, family bonds severed by treachery, echoing the painful cries of a father for his son. In the midst of the din of war, David's voice could be heard rising above the tumult. "Deal gently for my sake with the young man Absalom." The command was a fervent plea mixed with the authority of a king, yet it revealed the turmoil within, a father's love entangled in the coils of conflict. The forces engaged, arrows flew like summer rain, and the fate of Absalom hung precariously. As the skirmish unfolded, the cunning of Joab, commander of David's troops, took shape. He maneuvered his men with the precision of destiny, seeking to subdue the uprising that arose from flesh and blood. In his heart there swelled an unexpected sorrow for the plight of Absalom, knowing full well that the son of David was still his king by blood, despite the rebellion. In the thick of battle, chaos turned to tragedy as Absalom, with his unmistakable mane, was caught by the very tree he had once admired as a symbol of his grandeur. "O Absalom, my son, my son!" David's lament echoed on the winds, and the call pierced the hearts of those who stood in arms against each other. It was a heart-wrenching sound, resonating through the fields, mingled with the lamentations of broken dreams and shattered hopes. At that moment, the providence of God rested heavily in the silence that followed. Was this the end, or merely the beginning of a deeper revelation? How could a king's sacrifice redeem his son even in death? As the dust of battle settled and souls wrestled with pain and grief, an unforeseen twist uncurled in the shadow of heaven's gaze. What lies ahead in this tale, where hearts are laid waste, and yet the promise of redemption still stands at the dawn? The sum of events was a tapestry interwoven with threads of love, loss, and the undeniable sovereignty of God. As the nation of Israel stood at the precipice of history, their eyes were drawn towards the unfolding work of the divine, waiting for the fulfillment of the words once spoken. It is in the ashes of defeat that the fire of restoration is ignited, through the mercy that cries out for lost sons. As the final shouts of battle faded into a haunting echo, the sun began its descent, draping the land in shadows that mirrored the hearts of Israel. David, weary and shattered, wept upon hearing the news of Absalom's tragic end. The breath of life had escaped his son, caught in the branches of fate. "O Absalom, my son, my son!" Each word fell from his lips like a lamentation that struck the heavens. The men of Judah, once fierce in battle, now stood as mourners enveloped by grief. They felt the weight of their king's sorrow, for the wound was not only David's but theirs too. Absalom had been a youth of promise that many had rallied around. Their hearts ached at the thought of what could have been. A young man mightily used by God had fallen into the very trap of his own making, entangled by the sin that had birthed his rebellion. Rumors fluttered through the camp like autumn leaves caught in a windstorm. Each soldier whispered among themselves, pondering the implications of this tragic demise. Some hailed it a victory, while others mourned the loss of a life once filled with potential. And in the midst of this chaos, Joab, loyal to David and heavy with the burden of his command, approached the king with resolve. "Your Majesty," he said, "the men have fought valiantly, yet your sorrow has paralyzed our hearts. It is time to rise from this dust. You must show your face to your people, or else they will say you care more for your son's death than for their lives saved." David, battling the tempest of emotions within, realized the truth of Joab's words. With a heart torn asunder, he reluctantly stirred from his lament and stepped forth, clad in his royal attire, an image of a king reborn through grief even as he bore the scars of loss. As he stood before his people, Silence fell like a blanket over the gathered multitude. David cleared his throat, a tremor betraying his composure. "My people," he began, his voice steady yet laden with sorrow. "Today, we mourn not only a son, but a nation divided." He paused. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. For Absalom is gone, and with him, the dreams of reconciliation that could have united us all. His gaze swept over the crowd, where hearts burned with anguish and a flicker of hope. "But know this," he continued, "even in our deepest sorrow, God remains faithful. And though we appear scattered, his plans endure, and the covenant made unto our forefathers shall not be broken. He shall raise from ashes a remnant who shall know his ways." In the stillness that enveloped them, it was as if the breath of the Almighty was whispering promises anew. David felt the thaw of hope begin to penetrate the cold grip of despair. His proclamation was not merely a reflection of their current plight. It was an invitation to trust in God's sovereign plan, a plan greater than their eyes could behold. As day turned to night, a star appeared in the sky, brilliant and clear, drawing everyone's gaze upward. It shimmered with ethereal brightness, a silent herald of what was yet to unfold. "Who among us knows the mind of the Lord?" David echoed the prayers of the faithful, and as his heart turned towards the divine, he sensed a stirring within the heavens, a whisper of a future not yet revealed. Even as night cloaked the battlefield, the echoes of redemption began to weave through the hearts of men. What lay ahead was uncertain, yet within it lay the promise of restoration. And as the dawn would rise with new mercies, an unfolding revelation awaited. For the infamy of a son's rebellion shall lead to a kingdom's restoration, setting the stage for the one who would come to heal the breach. As dawn broke over the hills of Israel, a subtle light cascaded across the land, illuminating the somber faces of the mourning people. David remained in his chamber, his heart heavy with the weight of loss. But as the sun rose, a deep resolve began to take root within him. He knew that the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges and sorrow, but the ever-present hand of God was still at work, weaving the tapestry of his sovereign plan. The heart of the kingdom lay in turmoil. As the harsh reality settled among the men of Judah, whispers of discontent began to simmer. Even as David emerged, his face etched with the pain of a father, there were those who still dared to question the nature of God's favor upon their king. Joab sensed the unrest, and with a steely gaze, he sought to fortify his king's resolve. "Your Majesty, though our hearts grieve, we must not let Absalom's legacy be one of division. Let us gather our leaders and devise a path towards unity," Joab urged, his voice carrying the weight of both authority and friendship. David nodded, recognizing the wisdom in Joab's counsel. "Indeed, Joab. Let us take stock of our people. We must remind them of the God who led us through the wilderness, who divided the sea, and who delivered us from our enemies. May we turn back to the Lord that he might heal this rift amongst us," David replied, his voice finding strength amidst sorrow. As he assembled the elders and warriors of Judah, the air was thick with anticipation. They gathered in the gates of the city, a blend of sorrow and resolve coloring their faces. David addressed them, his heart aflame with a renewed purpose. "Brothers, though we mourn, we must not forget the promises of our God," he declared, "for it is written, 'The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit.'" Psalm 34:18. Though we have faced grief, his plans shall not be thwarted. The elders nodded, but doubt lingered like a shadow amongst some. One amongst them, Abishai, famed for his valor, stood boldly. "But how shall we trust the Lord in this desolation? Absalom's treachery has caused a great rift among us, leaving us vulnerable to our enemies," he challenged, his voice carrying the weight of their collective fear. David, emboldened by the Spirit, replied, "Fear not, for God is in the restoration business. After the darkest nights come the brightest dawns. Remember that it was through the trial of our forefather Joseph, sold into slavery and forgotten, that God preserved a nation and ultimately brought forth salvation." His words ignited a glimmer of hope amongst the assembly. They began to remember the God who transforms despair into purpose. The whispers of the crowd grew into murmurs of unity, each heart stirred towards a collective strength. Just then, a messenger from the north arrived, breathless and wild-eyed. "King David, the news is urgent. A rebellion is stirring near the borders. The Philistines and other nations sense our turmoil and seek to exploit our weakness." The assembly fell silent, hearts racing at this news. David steadied himself amidst the rising tide of anxiety. "Then we shall not cower. We shall gather our strength and trust in the Lord's deliverance. Deploy our might. Let us rally our people. For in the face of adversity we are called to withstand and contend. We shall advance toward victory forged in unity." The crowd erupted in fervent agreement, seized by a moment of undeniable purpose. David turned his gaze upwards, feeling the weight of the morning light upon his face. "God's purposes shall not go unfulfilled. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29:11. As the people rallied around David, something profound stirred in the stillness of the heavens. What would arise from this upheaval, the true heritage of Judah? What manner of redemption awaited them through the fire of trial? For as the sun ascended, the shadow of divine purpose loomed closer, pregnant with the promise of unfolding glory. It beckoned them onward, whispering of a future yet fully unseen. In the midst of betrayal, trust that the seed of restoration is taking root. As the echoes of David's proclamation resonated through the gates, a palpable electricity filled the air. The hearts of men stirred with fervency, emboldened by the king's resolve. In this tumultuous moment, an assembly of warriors readied themselves for battle, while others whispered prayers for divine intervention. The weight of their fears crushed beneath the promises of God. Yet amidst the fervor, Abishai, fierce and unyielding, remained troubled. "Your Majesty, trust is a fragile thing, easily broken by deceit. How shall we conquer this feeling of betrayal that festers in our hearts? For the wounds of Absalom run deep. Their sting remains fresh in the memory of this people," he pleaded, earnest in his desire to understand. David's voice took on a steady tone, rich with memories of faith. "Do not let the bitterness of betrayal blind you, dear friend. It is in our brokenness that God's power is made perfect. Consider Joseph again. Though cast into a pit and sold, he rose to become a savior for our people. His words, a lifeline cast into the chaos, brought flickers of hope. The crowd began to see not just the sorrow of loss, but the vibrant thread of God's promise woven through the narrative of their forefathers. Let us not dwell on how our hearts ache, but rather on how God can mend them. For it is written, 'The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him.' Lamentations 3:25. In this moment of shared yearning, a messenger from Gilead appeared, her face etched with urgency. "King David, I bring news of a path not yet traveled. A righteous man from the lineage of Saul has risen, intent on claiming the throne. Sheba, son of Bichri, seeks to rally the tribes against you. He openly defies your rule." The room tensed immediately, apprehension invading the brave resolve that had just begun to bloom. David breathed deeply, summoning his inner fortitude. "Then gathering strength is paramount. We will not shun this trial, for the Lord has purpose even in discord. Joab, assemble our finest men and pursue Sheba, lest his rebellion spread like a wildfire through our land." "Aye, your Majesty," Joab replied, his countenance firm with conviction. He knew the stakes were high. The spirit of earlier unity faced its test yet again. As Joab departed to carry out the king's command, David turned back to his people. "Beloved of the Lord, stay steadfast, for it is written, 'For the mountains may depart, and the hills be removed, but my steadfast love shall not depart from you.' Isaiah 54:10. Our Lord will not abandon his covenant with us." This declaration resonated within their hearts, stoking a flame of unyielding hope that pushed against the cold winds of despair. The gathering dispersed, soldiers taking arms, and yet within the shadows a deep sense of foreboding lingered, an awareness that the battle ahead would not only be fought with swords but would also be a spiritual reckoning of faith and fidelity. As dusk began to settle, an inexplicable hush fell over the land. David ascended to the roof of his palace, gazing out upon the twilight-kissed horizon, a scene both beautiful and terrifying. There he stood alone with his thoughts, grappling with the tension of his father's heart and the burden of kingship. His heart cried out to the Lord, "How can we rebuild amidst this scattering of hope? What redemption can rise from the ashes left by betrayal?" In that moment of divine intimacy, memory struck him. The word of the Lord through the prophet Nathan, who had once declared, "The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart." 1 Samuel 13:14. Was it possible that even in this relentless storm, God was still weaving a narrative far grander than they could comprehend? And then, beneath the twilight, a certainty dawned within his spirit. Sheba does not know that God's purpose is a tapestry spun amidst the seemingly frayed threads of our lives. Maybe this rebellion is but a strand leading toward his ultimate restoration. As David pondered the unfolding mystery, the shadow of God's sovereign hand loomed ever closer, hinting at a revelation yet to come, a divine plan so shocking that even he could not fully grasp its depths. How would he turn this turmoil into triumph? The answer lingered in the stillness just beyond the veil of understanding. Trust must arise amidst betrayal, for what appears lost may yet enrich the roots of redemption. And it came to pass that as Joab rode forth with his chosen men, the spirit of anticipation ignited the hearts of the warriors. They understood the gravity of their mission. The air was thick with the scent of looming conflict and uncertainty. Each stroke of hooves against the hardened earth resounded like a battle cry, echoing the resolve found in David's words. Meanwhile, David remained in quiet reflection, his heart a battleground of hope and dread. "O Lord, grant me wisdom to lead your people. We stand on the precipice of division once more, but let not our sorrow turn us against one another." The heavens bore witness to his earnest prayers, and the stars, silent sentinels of his promises, twinkled above. As David conversed with the Lord, news traveled like wildfire across the land. The tribes of Israel, drawn by the fire of Sheba's defiance, gathered to his banner, some rallying in rebellion, others torn by loyalties and fears. "What is this spirit of contention," David mourned, "that seeks to turn brother against brother?" At that hour, a wise woman from the city of Abel, knowing the chaos brewing, stepped forward, her heart burdened for her people. "Have courage, King David," she implored, her voice steady yet tender. "For we know the heart of the Lord moves among the tumult. My people desire peace, not strife, and we do not seek the blood of Israelites." David, hearing her words, felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. "Speak, wise woman," he replied. "What say you of Sheba? How might we quell his insurrection and heal the rift within our clans?" With shrewdness, she outlined her counsel. "Let us negotiate before the swords are drawn. Let our leaders speak, for it is a wise man who seeks understanding above conquest. Perhaps Sheba can be swayed to abandon his cause, or at the very least spare our city from ruin." David recognized the truth in her words. "So be it. I will send messengers unto him that peace might prevail over war, for I know that the Lord delights in unity." He then charged runners to traverse the hills, relaying the desire for reconciliation to Sheba and his supporters. Yet in the heart of Sheba, festering fury raged. "Why should I yield?" he proclaimed loudly, rallying his followers around him. "Is not my lineage the rightful claim to the throne? I shall not turn back until David tastes the bitterness of defeat." His words landed heavily among the people, fueling a rebellion that threatened to engulf the land. But as the shadow of conflict loomed larger, another character emerged upon the scene. A young man, Ahimelech, allied with David, bore a message delivered straight from the heart of God. "Your reign, O king, shall not be threatened by those who rise against you, for the Lord is your fortress, your stronghold in times of trouble." With renewed assurance, David stood resolute. Yet must we not be blind to the peril around us, for in every challenge our faith is tested. Will we not hold fast to the promise that, when the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will lift up a standard against him? Isaiah 59:19. As both sides prepared for confrontation, words against words, hearts against hearts, a still small voice reverberated in the depths of David's soul. God was present in the storm, He held the threads of their fates in his sovereign hands, weaving a design of redemption. Yet, unbeknownst to David, Sheba had gathered strength, his rebellion gaining speed like the chariot of an unseen adversary. How would this battle end? In the shadows of the unfolding conflict, another test awaited, a divine revelation that was yet cloaked in mystery, urging the faithful to remain vigilant, for something infinitely greater loomed on the horizon, something that would change the fabric of their very lives forever. Would they recognize the hand of God amid the tumultuous storm? And it came to pass that while conflict brewed, David, stricken with grief, sought the counsel of the Almighty. O Lord, do not let us be consumed by wrath, nor allow our hearts to erode in anger, he cried out, looking towards the heights, where the sky seemed to weep with him. For there is strife in the land and within our own families, yet you alone can mend what is broken. In the city, Sheba gathered his forces, emboldened by those whose hearts were filled with rebellion. They rallied to him like moths drawn to a flame, each man whispering promises of glory and liberation from the yoke of David's reign. Let us rise up as one. Let us unleash our might against our oppressor, he declaimed, his voice echoing through the hills, igniting fervor among the discontented tribes. But the wise woman from Abel, whose name was unknown yet whose wisdom was revered, sensed the impending doom of her city and its people. She rushed to gather the elders, her heart a furnace of purpose. Wise men of Abel, our peace lies in the balance. If we do not act swiftly, doom shall descend upon us all. We must convince Sheba to forsake his course, or we ourselves shall be swallowed up in conflict. The elders heeded her call, and they devised a plan of words, a call to reason sent forth to Sheba, pleading for an audience. In the fervor of rebellion, Sheba's response was laced with scorn. What unity is there among us? A king who rules by force cannot claim dominion over my blood. If they desire to follow David, let them feel the rapture of war. Yet David remained steadfast, sending forth Ahimelech with his task. Go, speak to the leaders, and may the Lord guide your words. Tell them of the hope we share as a nation, and our need for reconciliation. Ahimelech, equipped with the grace of David's authority, departed, knowing he bore the weight of his king's heart upon his shoulders. Meanwhile the air grew heavy with tension as days turned into nights. Warriors from both sides readied themselves, the tension akin to that of a bowstring pulled taut. David, seeking solace, withdrew to a high place, and there the Lord met him. O David, beloved of my heart, the battle is not yours but mine. Stand firm and do not fear, for I shall show you the path of restoration, and it shall not be through the sword. As the dawn broke, the wise woman who once brought counsel prepared her final plea. Gathering her people, she urged them to silence their voices of conflict. Let us not perish for the folly of one, she implored. We shall send forth our best among us to reason with Sheba, and if it be God's will we shall know peace once again. Thus it was ordained that as the sun ascended in its glory, the fate of Israel hung by a thread, interwoven with the faithfulness of the Almighty. For in every heart, hope wrestled with despair, and the destiny of a nation awaited resolution. Unbeknownst to David and the children of Israel, the hand of God was already at work, weaving threads of conflict into a tapestry of mercy. For he had not forgotten the covenant with his people, and from this tempest of turmoil, a greater redemptive purpose was aspiring to break forth. What was this divine mystery that lay ahead, and how would it transform the fabric of their lives forever? And it came to pass that the wise woman, her heart held firmly by resolve, chose from among her people a single man of stature and honor, an elder known for his understanding, named Joab. She entrusted him with her voice, saying, Go forth, Joab, and speak unto Sheba. Let reason and wisdom guide your words, for our land cries out for peace, and our hearts yearn for unity. So Joab set his face towards the encampment of Sheba, who basked in the fervor of his followers. As Joab approached, a silence fell upon the gathering. The men of Sheba were unsure, for they saw the valor in Joab's demeanor, and felt a flicker of fear in their hearts. Joab raised his voice, firm yet filled with grace. Men of Israel, Why pursue the winds of discord? Do you not see the ruin that awaits? Your rebellion against the anointed king will lead only to destruction. Sheba, emboldened still, called back, Would you have us bow to the yoke of David? Have we not tasted the sweetness of freedom? The throne belongs not to him, but to us who will rise. His words swept through the crowd, stirring their hearts back toward tumult. Yet Joab, full of wisdom and courage, spoke again. O Sheba, do you not recall the words of our forefathers? Did not the Lord himself promise our nation peace when we are united? The threat of war brings only loss. And what will your glory profit if the sword claims our lives? As Joab spoke, the countenance of the men began to shift, doubt creeping into their hearts. They remembered the days of peace under David, the songs of joy, the building of the temple. The stalwart men began to exchange fleeting glances, and in that moment, the wise woman's plan took root. Yet Sheba remained unmoved, drawing strength from his pride. Meanwhile, in the royal courts of David, the king remained steadfast in prayer. The Lord's still voice echoed in his heart, Do not lose hope, my beloved, for your enemies shall be scattered. Trust in my sovereign design. David rose, sending word to Abishai, Take your men and pursue Sheba. Let not this rebellion sink deeper into darkness, for peace shall be restored through strength, and I shall guide your hand. As day turned to night, Abishai mobilized his warriors, drawing near to the stronghold where Sheba and his followers had retreated. In twilight's dim embrace, Joab, expressing his unwavering loyalty, resolved to confront Sheba directly. He shall not escape, for our destiny is bound in righteousness, Joab vowed. But the wise woman, ever alert to the dawning conflict, whispered in Joab's ear, He would secede from our land, yet use caution, for sometimes beneath the surface of anger lies the heart of fear. Speak not just to his pride, but to his grief. Let him know he is the son of Israel. As Joab's heart softened at her counsel, he took a breath to prepare for the encounter. And behold, just as pilgrimage and discord converge, the winds of God's grace were turning the tide towards an unexpected redemption. What then shall come of these unfolding events in the plan of the Almighty? Would Sheba relent? And in what manner would God weave together the hearts of his people once more? The tapestry of destiny remained unspooled, awaiting divine hands to unravel its mysteries and fulfill his sovereign promise. And it came to pass, in the midst of mounting tension, that Joab drew near to the stronghold where Sheba had taken refuge, steeling his heart for the confrontation. The air was thick with uncertainty, yet a prevailing sense of divine purpose hung over the gathering. Joab lifted his voice once more, calling unto Sheba, Hear me, O Sheba, you who would turn the hearts of the people. This rebellion against David, the Lord's anointed, is but a snare leading to destruction. As the words left Joab's lips, there arose a murmur among the men surrounding Sheba. They turned their eyes, weighing Joab's reasoning against Sheba's fiery defiance. Sheba, igniting the flame of rebellion, shouted back, What care have I for the house of David? He led us into battles where many fell. Stand with me, brothers, and we shall carve our path in defiance. But Joab, emboldened by the weight of truth, proclaimed, Do you not remember the victories of our God? It was by his hand we triumphed. It is he who gives us strength, and through unity we shall prevail. Are you willing to forsake our heritage for a fleeting moment of pride? Among the followers, a flicker of doubt blossomed like the first light of dawn. Some began to question their loyalty, recalling the history that had woven their lives together in the name of the God of Israel. Their minds echoed with wounds of past struggles, yet also with the healing songs that had come from David's court. In that moment, the wise counsel of the woman still resonated within Joab, as he looked deeply into Sheba's defiant eyes. Sheba, Joab spoke gently, you stand as a child of Israel, a son from our blood, a brother in our plight. We are not enemies to one another, but a family divided by conflict. I implore you, put aside your grievances. Let us not stain the earth with our blood. Rather, let us seek peace among the ruins of pride. Sheba's countenance shifted, momentarily wavering as he faced the flickering lights of hope ignited by Joab's plea. Yet within his heart, bitterness swelled. You speak of peace, yet my heart knows the sting of betrayal, Joab. You speak of a king who has forgotten his people, and I cannot bow to one who has cast me aside. Amidst the turmoil and cries that surrounded them, the wise woman, hearing the rising clamor of dissent, climbed to a height, her voice ringing clear. Behold, men of Israel, is it not better to be known as peacemakers than as the architects of our nation's ruin? Israel is great when united in truth, not forged in the fires of our anger. Her voice penetrated the hearts of many, and in that charged atmosphere Joab seized the moment to implore Sheba with earnestness. If you truly seek the heart of our people, then lead us back to the path of unity. The throne of David is the throne of Israel. Shall we not lower our swords and embrace the healing that comes from forgiveness? As Joab spoke, a deep stillness fell across the assembly, and Sheba, wrestling with the tumult in his soul, began to understand the depth of his choices. Yet pride still clung to his heart as shadows danced in the twilight, and in the distance, Abishai and his warriors approached, ever vigilant and ready to reclaim what once belonged to the land. The intertwining layers of fate began to weave a complex design, unseen yet intricately bound to God's sovereign will. What further entanglements shall arise from this clash between heart and pride? What weighty decisions lie ahead for Sheba and the men who once stood as one? In the depths of their struggle, the heavens held their breath as the plan of the Almighty unfolded, a plan beyond the reach of mere mortals. The questions echoed like the roar of distant thunder. What shall the Lord demand of his people in the pursuit of unity, and what sacrifices will be required to fulfill his divine covenant? And it came to pass that the weight of choices bore heavily upon the hearts of many, as night fell deeper over the land. The remnants of a fractured nation hung suspended in the air, while Joab, filled with resolve, awaited Sheba's answer, waiting for a flicker of understanding, for within that moment lay the fulcrum of their fate. For while Sheba stood on the brink of rebellion, the wise woman's words echoing through the multitude like the rustling leaves of a tree caught in gentle winds, began to penetrate the layers of his pride. What would come of this war born of bitterness? She mused as she approached the gathering. There is no peace in bloodshed, she implored. Each life lost is a thread severed from the tapestry of Israel. If we were to continue down this path, what fate would our children meet? Shall we lead them only into chaos and despair? As dawn's first light pierced the night's shroud, casting rays of hope upon their faces, Sheba felt the stirrings of uncertainty within. The words of Joab and the wise woman began to seed doubt in the harsh soil of his heart. What if, he pondered silently, what if there is a way to speak my grievances without war? Just as resolution settled over the assembly, Abishai and his warriors drew near, armed and grim, ready to reclaim the throne with strength and honor. Joab saw them approach, and with urgency rising in his voice, turned once more to the crowd. Brothers, remember who you are. We are bound by a covenant forged by the hand of the Almighty. A family, not adversaries. His impassioned plea echoed against the cliffs, rising like smoke to the heavens. The hearts of the men of Israel wavered as they remembered. A reverberation of their shared history surged between them. Have we not withstood battles together against our common foes? Joab continued, gaining momentum. Surely our unity in the Lord surpasses any earthly claim to the throne. In our hands rests the power to choose love over division, restoration over ruin. Then a hush fell. Sheba, caught in the web of emotion, finally turned to Joab with vulnerability in his eyes. Is it too late to forge a path toward peace? The emblem of rebellion lay heavy upon him, but a yearning for something greater flickered within his heart. Joab saw the fissures of doubt crack the surface of Sheba's defiance, and with grace he responded, Sheba, it is never too late to choose the greater way, the way of the Lord. Together let us return to David and seek his forgiveness, for in humility flows the rivers of restoration. The murmurs that swept through the crowd blossomed into voices raised in agreement, and in that moment, overwhelmed by the echo of unity, many set aside their swords. A realization dawned. Reconciliation was the true victory, and the blood of their brethren was not worth the crown born from conflict. Amidst the strains of hope, Sheba took a step forward. I will speak to David. Let us seek his forgiveness and forge a path toward a new accord, one where we are more than subjects but partners in our shared fate. As the assembly whipped into fervent agreement, light shone through the darkness that had persisted. They called upon God's grace, and the wisdom of the ages flowed through them like healing balm, and together they marched towards David, a parade of lives intertwined in purpose, ready to lay down their grievances and embrace the unity of the Spirit. Upon entering the gates, David stood at the forefront, filled with his own burdens of sorrow. Yet as he beheld the transformation of his people, his heart swelled with the sense of God's mercy unfolding. A whisper inside him affirmed, "This is the tapestry of hope being woven even now." Therefore, David declared to the multitude who now bore the marks of resolution and love, "Let us extend our hands, clasped in fellowship. Together, we shall rebuild what has been broken. We are stronger united under Yahweh's guidance." As the words flowed from his lips, the sun rose in resplendent glory, casting light upon a people reclaimed by grace, a nation once again healed beneath the loving hand of their sovereign king. In that moment of divine convergence, the hearts of many were again aligned toward the truth that shattered animosity into unity, where the remnants of rebellion fell, crushed before the power of forgiveness. And the faithful proclaimed, "O Lord, our hearts rejoice in your unfathomable mercy. In the ashes of discontent we find our place restored. Blessed are we who seek peace, for we are called the sons and daughters of God." As the nation breathed anew, the chorus of worship resounded through the land, echoing the splendor of divine providence, redirecting the course of their fates toward a brighter horizon. And as they looked forward, the promise of restoration remained. The legacy of David would echo through the generations, and in time, the one greater than all would come, healing the rift and ushering forth a kingdom without end. Thus the cycle began, not merely of survival but of thriving under divine purpose. Reflect now on this incredible story. Do not hesitate, subscribe immediately to the channel. You need to stay connected to these powerful biblical stories. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm, reaching more souls in need of hope. Comment and share your spiritual reflections, and let us know how this wondrous account has impacted your faith journey. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth and experience the miracle of redemption. Together, let's ignite the flames of faith across the lands.